You're listening to the Thrive Podcast, where every week we dive into a practical, tactical tip to bring you from a life of simply surviving to thriving. It's personal development for the everyday girl who is done with coasting through her days, done with feeling like she's missing out on the deeper meaning of her own life, and done with mediocrity once and for all. Because it's not enough to simply survive. You deserve to thrive. Today's special birthday edition of Thrive features a very special guest, my mom. By popular request, she is here, and we are at my kitchen island today, chatting on the eve of my birthday about her being my mom and working with me on CUR, and then diving deep into the good and the to be improved moments that we've had, as well as thoughts on bettering your own mother-daughter relationship too. Before diving into today's episode, please subscribe if you haven't yet. Drop us 5 stars if you like what you're listening to. And now let's get into it. Welcome back to Thrive. Today we're here with a very special guest, my mom. So this is really cool because it's actually my birthday. Happy birthday to me when you're listening to this. And I actually asked my peeps on Instagram who you wanted to see on Thrive. And the overwhelming majority of people said my mom, which is so fun.
It is fun. I'm honored.
You're an honored
Surprised, but honored.
I know. It was you. And then it was, we had some Kamala Harris and some Taylor Swift. So you're really among the ranks of women,
wow.
You know, so be honored.
This is cool.
Yeah. So first off, introduce yourself. Who are you? And who are you? You're my mom.
Exactly. Erica's mom, Marianne.
What do you do for a living, Marianne?
I am a nurse for many, many, many years, more years than I care to admit.
Yeah. So the fun fact.
That's my career.
Mm-hmm. Now tell us the cool fun fact.
Well, you started a hobby in college, which is now my part-time job as your backup for photography and all the fun stuff, and taking me along on adventures and asking me to do things that I don't normally do. And it's all
like
good.
What?
Well, let's see, moving dumpsters in Chicago to get pictures of murals, and just going up in hot air balloons and horseback riding in the desert. A lot of fun adventures and fun firsts.
It's more
fun. Some misadventures.
That's more adventurous than school nurse.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would say.
Don't tell my employer, but I would retire if I could.
Shots fired. Or
if I could do this full time. Yes.
Yeah. So I think the fun fact about my mom that a lot of you probably know by now is, if you are familiar with a certain book called Caffeinate Your Soul, 52 Monday Mantras, available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and wherever books are sold. This one shot the front cover, which is so cool.
That was probably our most epic shot to date.
Yeah. I know I've probably told this story before, but tell our dear listeners what that actually involved behind the scenes, because I don't think people realize that was like an actual picture from an actual camera that an actual human being took. Like, it's not photoshopped at all.
No,
it's not like that was the result of like 1,000 pictures that ended up happening. So tell everyone what we actually looked like and where we shot that.
No, 1,000. It was more than that, because we did test shots first when you told me what your concept was, what the vision was in your head. And we did test shots with water just to see how I could work the camera settings to get the kind of action shot that you wanted. Then once we knew that, then we switched to coffee. A lot of instant, cheap coffee that we were making in your driveway by the court. And just trial and error. We tried different locations within your cul-de-sac, within your driveway, different backdrops, different platforms to put the coffee cup on, holding the coffee cup, placing the coffee cup, where to position the coffee cup, and then how high you needed to pour the coffee from in order to get the shot.
And to not miss the cup, because I did that only a bajillion times.
Yes.
Blatantly missing
complete miss. It was funny too, because Jamie came out once and thought he could help and didn't understand why hitting the coffee cup was tricky. And on his first attempt, completely missed the mug. But it was quite the process that we knew each round of shots that we were getting closer, and finally figured out that I only had a split second of shooting for each pour to get that splash that you wanted.
Well, because it started just as a creative concept of like, what should this cover be? And I felt like such a visionary. My whole vision was like, well, I just want it to look like coffee's pouring into a cup and just overflowing, like splashing out a lot of coffee, like you're drowning in coffee. And that was the creative vision that you had to work off of. So A+ job for taking that and turning it into a work of art.
But when we got that shot, we knew it.
Oh yeah, we were
It
like,
was instant. That
shot.
was it. We knew it. And
Yeah, go us, go team. Okay, so this was a question that came in from Instagram, and I thought it was so great. No pressure. What was I like as a child? There's no right or wrong answer.
in one word,
Oh boy.
enthusiastic.
I would say that's pretty consistent with, how I.
You
am.
absolutely were. You know that. I told you that. I used to say you were born enthusiastic for everything. Activities, foods, adventures, everything. You were gung-ho, and you've just always been that way.
It's funny because I feel like that's Liv now too, where she's like, I love this and I'm so ready and all of this. And I'm like, that must have been what I was like.
Liv is like you on steroids.
Oh,
so
God bless me,
that's right. It goes around, it comes around.
Wonderful.
She's delightful. You were a challenge to parent, but a delightful challenge because I had to keep up with you. We had to keep up with you.
Which is funny now as I hear her yelling on the baby monitor upstairs.
I thought that was Percy.
No, that
was that
Liv.
Olivia?
Yeah, I don't know if y'all just heard that, but we're recording this literally night before it goes live. Liv just went to bed. We're at the kitchen island, huddled around, like what a real life scene, and she's interjecting. So there you go. Okay, this was a question that I had for you. What stage of me growing up was the hardest on you, and why?
Well, when you were a young baby, I had no experience with babysitting.
Can relate.
Right. So I honestly, even though I was a nurse already, an experienced nurse, when I brought you home, I just thought I was going to break you. Like, you're so nervous as a new mom, and I didn't have help around or anything like that. So it was, once I got the swing of it, then that was okay. But I do remember in the beginning thinking, oh, wow, like this, I don't know what to do with her. Like, I don't know what to do with the baby. But then, look, you turned out okay.
I turned out decent.
You were bullied late elementary school into middle school. And as any parent of a child who's been bullied would know, it's awful. It's awful. It's awful for the kid going through it. It's awful for the parent in different ways. But yeah, that if I could erase that from your life, I would.
I don't think I would, though. I mean, like, I would, right?
Yes.
Like, I would, because obviously no one wants to go through that. But I know so much of, I think, how I think and who I am.
Absolutely.
And how I treat people and what I try to teach Olivia. Like, so much of that I think is now rooted in having gone through what I did go through. So now in hindsight, I actually don't know if I would say erase it completely, because I feel like that was actually very formative for me positively once I actually got over and all the bad stuff and went to therapy for it and healed some wounds.
But your sense of empathy is beyond what many people.
Yeah, I will.
And you have an emotion. You have an emotional intelligence and an understanding of emotion and an introspective quality that I think is rooted in a lot of what you went through.
Yes, I think because my gut reaction a lot of times is like, how is the other person feeling right now because of what's going around? And I don't know. I think I just have heightened awareness now.
Well, I know I saw this often in you. You don't like to see anybody else excluded or left out. And we didn't necessarily prompt you to do that, or it wasn't like we were constantly encouraging you to do that. That was something that came naturally from you. You just gravitated towards, and you still do that. You're very much about, I want to be successful, but I'm taking everybody around with me. We are all rising to the top.
Yeah, I would say that's true. And now I see that in Liv too, because then I'm always cognizant when she's playing with her toys or whatever, like, okay, we include everyone. So now she'll run up to people and be like, hey, you want to come play blocks with me? Or like, hey, bring your, what she says to the grown-ups, bring your drink, come with me.
Well, she shared her cake with everybody tonight.
Yeah, I think it has a trickle effect, so it's important. I would agree. Okay, so how would you describe our mother-daughter relationship? Like in a nutshell.
A blessing.
Oh, that's nice. Well,
No,
elaborate on that.
no, I mean it very sincerely. I mean, we were always close, and I think it's evolved now. I mean, I still revert to mom, and I know you've called me out on the internet numerous times for being the queen of unsolicited advice.
Oh God,
So
that's your title, yep.
that's when I slip over into full mom mode, which as a mom, you can never get away. You'll always be my daughter. That's just that. But
This is true.
I really cherish the friendship that we have now.
Well, that's gone.
Yes, and I can't say too much because then you know me, I'll cry.
You're
No,
like,
no, no. I don't cry on the internet. Wait, I have a tissue right here just in case.
oh, sweet Lord. Do you think it's different than like the relationship that you have with your own mom or with the relationship that you see your peers have with their parents or with their children respectively?
Different than with my own mom. Even I have a good relationship with my mom. We've always been close. But you and I have a different degree of closeness. We talk more about all things and I think try to support each other in growing. Like just as much as I will try to give you advice, whether you ask for it or not, you also do the same thing for me. So I've grown, I've grown in ways myself
Circle.
because of you. And I see how introspective you are and how dedicated to growth and improvement and just like being self-aware that you are. And so that has rubbed off on me. So I do appreciate that.
Huh, I didn't know that. That's good to know.
See, now you know.
Noted. Well, I mean, I can't. I think that also, though, is testament to our relationship that I am comfortable enough to call you out on certain things. Because I feel like some people might just be like, roll their eyes at their parent behind their back and tell their therapist and then call it a day and not actually try to strengthen or further the relationship. So I think it says something when you are close enough with someone. I've talked about this with Jamie before and with girlfriends where like it actually I think says more about a relationship when you are willing to call out hard things and go through a hard conversation to get better. Because I think a lot of times people will just say not so great things behind somebody's back, vent about them, and then brush it under a rug and move on and not actually have a hard conversation to grow because their relationship isn't worth it in their mind, or maybe it is and they just aren't comfortable with that. But I think it's, I don't know, I think my mindset has always been the core people in my life. I would much rather have an uncomfortable conversation in the moment to get better and have a much stronger, healthier, more comfortable relationship in the future that's better for both parties. So
No, I would much rather you call me out.
I will continue calling you out.
That's
Don't
fine.
you worry.
No, well, I know now I'm not supposed to use the word should when we're talking about things.
Yeah, this is true.
I'm aware, but I've become more aware of it.
Well,
so that's good.
It's not just using the word should.
It's for certain things.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. For context, dear listeners, this came from years of realizing, basically, in discussions with my own therapist, where I realized some of my insecurities with certain things in life stemmed from hearing, oh, you should do X, Y, Z, and then internalizing it as my original thought or idea was not correct or was not good enough. So it caused me to doubt myself. And of course, this was not your intention at all.
No.
So I had to tell you and be like, hey, listen, I had this like deep introspective realization as a grown-up that you're totally not meant for harm comments that were just meant because you thought you had good ideas, and you did. But I internalized some of them in different ways when it felt like that was the majority of what I was hearing. So that's an example of you talk something through, and that's our relationship.
Well, you know what? In all honesty, though, part of probably how I say things comes from, remember how many years I've been a nurse, and I worked in the emergency room, and then I worked in industry, and then I've been in a school health situation for 20 years. So in each of those clinical settings, I'm always having to give people health advice. Like, this is what you need to do. This is what you should do to take care of XYZ. And so I think it's a habit. It's not like I'm intentionally saying, oh, Erica needs to be told what she should do. It's just, it's the way, it's the speech.
It's a habit of presentation.
It's the way that it's the speech that I use because of having to try to give people in short amounts of time, this is what you need to do for whatever. So
yeah, this is true.
But
okay, well, is there anything that, looking back at my childhood or how you raised me and then seeing me today, Is there anything you wish you had done differently or that you would tell me to do differently than you had now that I am also a mom? No pressure. This is a real test of the introspection here.
Wow.
Just put you on the spot.
Let me think. Oh my gosh, I was thinking of the bullying things. I mean, we tried to be as supportive as possible with that, but there's
I don't feel like there's a right or wrong answer to that.
See,
though,
it's always that
that's
hindsight is 20/20 is always the thing. So
right, and I think of like if I saw Liv getting bullied today, and my first reaction is I would pop a kid in the face. Like that's obviously not
can't do
gonna
that.
Get me very far, but like that's like gut reaction when you're going through something. I feel like that's just as traumatic sometimes for the parent as it is for the kid. So you can't necessarily judge your response to something like that because that's like you do the best you can in the moment, and as long as you don't end up in jail, you're doing okay.
No, I mean, I enjoyed a lot of your childhood and the things we did and all the activities and the adventures. I think now, having Olivia as a granddaughter, now I try to be more aware of the moment and be more mindful and present in the moment. And so I probably, if I could do that over, and I would want to be even more present and more mindful in all of your moments.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I mean, that comes, well, it comes with age and maturity and, just.
Well, that's also interesting because you also didn't have technology when you were raising me. Like that's something very different. And that now I constantly catch myself to be more present, but normally it's because my iPhone's right next to me and I'm like knowing that I have emails coming in or knowing that I have a text coming in or something. So being present is challenging notifications, whereas you didn't necessarily have that when you were raising me.
I didn't have a cell phone till you were a baby. That was when, and those cell phones back then
were the big.
Oh yeah, they were
big ones with antennas.
Huge. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. So
that was a real distraction. It was me or the antenna brick.
No, and that was strictly only for here. You have a cell phone in the event of an emergency while you're out running errands or something. You can reach somebody. Yeah. That was the full extent of what a cell phone was for back then.
So, what do you think is our funniest memory together? Our funniest memory, and then also our best. Like a best memory that's more sentimental. But what's funniest? Because you just laughed.
Oh my God. Because I was thinking how long do we have? I could give you a list.
We have all the time in the world. It's my
okay.
podcast.
Funniest moment. I'll tell you the first thing that came to my mind. You take a guess. What do you think is the first thing that popped in my mind when you said our funniest memory together?
There's many, so this feels.
Okay, how about if I give you this? Funny but painful.
Oh wait. What? Funny but painful.
For me, it was painful.
When you fell down the escalator.
Yes! Oh my God.
Oh wait,
somewhere.
No. Were you falling up or falling? You fell down going up.
Correct.
Oh, paint the picture for our sweet listeners, because this was not good for you, but this was sure as hell funny for everybody witnessing it.
This was in Arizona. Mm-hmm. When we arrived in Arizona, and we were going up the escalator in the airport with our luggage, and you were behind me.
My hands are sweating
I know you were a couple steps behind me, and the suitcase, because we just had our carry-on suitcases with us, but they were both the rolling kind, and the wheel got caught, and I tried to stop it from falling down because you were on the step below me, and in trying to do that, I fell backwards.
Basically, everybody's worst nightmare on an escalator.
And you were trying to push me up, and I'm like, no, because I didn't want you to fall. And it was just we rode the escalator like that, and I could feel the blades of the step like cutting into my tush and the back of my thighs, thinking, oh my God, like I'm going to be scalped by the escalator. No one was around. Do you remember? Like there was no one around us. You're thinking, where are the people that are going to hit the emergency stop button so that the women don't die on the escalator? Yes, so it looked like a bear clawed my backside.
Yeah, it was gnarly.
It was. And then was a security guard or something at the airport that we told him what happened. And he said, oh, there's security footage of that somewhere. I'm going to go look for it.
Yeah, I'm sure we ended up on somebody's TikTok somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, we had a good laugh about it. It hurt though, but it was funny.
Yeah, that was That was pretty bad. Oh man.
I was just glad though that what you had, I mean, you always have had long hair though. I have short hair, and I was glad that it wasn't you, because I did like worst case scenario would have been your hair getting caught in the escalator steps.
That would have been bad.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on the flip side, what's one of your best or favorite memories in general together?
Your wedding. Because
that's a good one.
it was such a joy-filled, happy day. It was just wonderful. I mean, I went to bed that night with such a full, happy heart.
Oh yeah.
It was magical. It really was. It was magical.
It was magical. I also liked when we were horsebacking in Arizona. Horseback riding.
That was phenomenal.
Yeah,
that was. I could not believe that we got a chance to do that. I've always wanted to go horseback riding, and the fact that we got to do it in the middle of the desert in Arizona, that was, the scenery was so beautiful and surreal that it looked like a fake backdrop.
Do you remember when your horse bit the butt of my horse?
The butt of your horse.
My horse kicked your horse? And
yes.
We almost got into a horse fight.
That was scary, but you held on to that horse out when your horse bucked.
I mean, what can I say? I'm basically a professional.
Natural. Mm-hmm.
One time on a back of a horse, and I nailed it.
On that same trip, then we also had the hot air balloon. And remember, the hot air balloon just kind of stalled up there, that literally was not moving anywhere. And we kind of thought, well, this is really odd, but there was no current whatsoever. And it was such a weird feeling that the hot air balloon was just suspended and still before he had to touch down on the road. You remember that too?
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was a little scary though.
Okay, so this is a random question that I just thought of. What piece of advice would you give if someone is listening and they're like maybe my age, maybe a little younger, and they feel like they don't have the greatest relationship with their mom, but they want to have a better relationship with their mom? How do you think someone should approach that?
Talk and say what you just did. Be able to have a conversation and say, I really want to have a better relationship with you. How can we work on that? What do you need? I'll share what I need, you share what you need, and let's find common ground, and let's commit to being able to work towards that. You have to be able to be honest and to be able to take it and to give it and not become defensive or hurt by it. See it as growth, and what's the end? Keep the end in mind. What's your goal? If your goal is to have a great relationship, that's what you have to work toward.
What do you think helped you the most in your own personal growth journey, so to speak, of like being open and willing to accept feedback from, for example, your child? Because I feel like I know I've seen this where like a lot of parents maybe are like totally turned off to the idea of feedback or anything from their kid, because the first thought is like, you're my child. Like, and it's hard for them to even see their kid as an adult or as someone whose thoughts are not equal, but just like respectable, as something that they should actually take into consideration and adopt and move forward with. So do you think there was anything that kind of helped you personally be able to take anything that Michael or I say to you, for example, and like take it to heart and listen to it and not just be like, what the heck, my child is telling me how to live my life. Who do they think they are?
I like to learn something new every day. I think you spend your whole life learning and growing. You can learn from anybody. The age is irrelevant. So you have to let go of pride. I mean, your daughter, my granddaughter, can teach me things too. And she's 2. So let go of pride.
That's a biggie. Okay, so I read somewhere recently that your daughter is a reflection of you. So for me, that makes me terrified, because I'm like, good God, I'm a tornado. But with us right here, what does that make you? If I am a reflection of you, what does that make you?
That feels like a compliment to me, though, because...
That's fine. Then speak it out loud. Speak good things about yourself.
Oh, my goodness.
It's my birthday, so you could speak it as if it's me, and happy birthday to me.
I think you really try to be the best person that you can be. You try to be the best version of yourself.
Okay, but I'm going to cut you off right there, because we're not actually talking about me. It's supposed to be a reflection of I am the reflection of you. So what does that make you?
I want to try to be the best version of myself. So, I see you do that, and I'd like to mirror that. I hope that you see me trying to do that, and maybe there's some part of you that tries to mirror that, so that we're both striving to do, well, what's the name of your podcast? Thrive. We're both.
I was about to say striving to thrive.
We're striving to thrive. No, in all honesty, we don't know how much time we have on this earth. So, make every day count.
Make every day count. Love it. All right. Well, you know the drill. You've heard this podcast a few times. So I'm going to ask you what I ask everyone who comes on Thrive. Brace yourself. What does thrive mean to you? And how do you strive to thrive in your own everyday life?
I love when you ask your guests this question because you get such a great variety of answers.
That is true. It blows my mind every time because I have honestly half expected something to repeat itself at this point, and I don't often prep people ahead of time. Like oftentimes at this point, it's like pretty spontaneous, and I don't know if people do their research and listen in before they are on the show, and everyone has a different answer, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. But okay.
It is, but I think that's important because there are some common themes in what it means to thrive, but I think the fact that you have such a variety of guests and so many accomplished guests, and they all have a slightly different version of what it means to thrive. So I think that's important for people to hear, and it might also give people ideas. Like somebody might not realize by their standard of what they think is thriving, they might not consider themselves to be thriving at that moment, but then they hear someone else's description of what they think it means to thrive, and it might make them think, like, step back and say, wow, like maybe I need to shift my perspective because there are ways that I'm thriving in my life.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so what does thrive mean to you?
So, to thrive. We have so many choices and decisions that we make every day. And I think we make so many of them by habit or unconsciously. And there's just a few that we are very deliberate about. So I'm trying more to be mindful of the decisions that I make, to live life on purpose with intention instead of just running through it and realizing, okay, the day is over, and what about my day did I do on purpose? And what was routinized. And that doesn't mean you have to do these huge, grandiose things. If you're in the moment, each moment, you can be kind, you can be gentle, joyful, little things like that have a huge impact. So moment by moment, you're thriving. You're not going to have a full day where every moment thrives, but the more you can thrive in the individual moments, then that becomes the theme of your life.
And I think it increases your appreciation of everything too.
Absolutely.
When your awareness is heightened.
Absolutely.
Because then you're being intentional and you're more aware, so that you're acting with intention. But then in turn, you're more aware of everything that you're receiving as well. So
yes.
then you end up being able to appreciate things more as they come because you're just paying closer attention. Because you're paying attention to what you're putting out. So you're, by its very nature, also paying more attention to what you're taking in.
And the more grateful you are, I think it heightens your awareness of the things that you have to be grateful for. Some people might say, I don't want to have to do a gratitude journal. I don't want to have to look for reasons to be grateful. It seems forced. And maybe for some people in the beginning, it feels forced. But once you start doing it, it becomes easier, and then it just becomes very natural.
For sure. Okay, and then how do you strive to thrive in your everyday life? I feel like you kind of.
I was going to say, I think that I kind of wrapped it together. So. Yeah.
Cool. Well, normally I ask people where they can find you online, but since you're not online, so I'll proxy that.
I am online. I'm the behind the camera of the photos.
This is true.
So there you go.
So if you are just following at thrive.podcast on Instagram or at Erica Lagenza, you'll see the work of the wonderful Marianne at play. Any final closing words?
That is how I play. That is good.
It's how you play. Any closing words of motherly advice?
Oh, motherly advice. I was
or
going
whatever. You could.
I was going to tell the listener, I think you do a great job as a podcast host. So
Oh, well,
I think it should be shared far and wide. Somebody, no, really.
There you go. You could say happy birthday to me, and you can pay homage to my mom by sharing your favorite episode of Thrive with someone who you care about. Maybe your own mom. Maybe someone else who is a mom. Maybe just a random person on the street.
Absolutely.
And that works. Then you'll be thriving. They'll be thriving too. Wait, before you go, make sure you're subscribed to never miss an episode of Thrive. Drop 5 stars on your way out if you like what you just listened to, and come join the party on Instagram at thrive.podcast to stay inspired and thriving all week long. Thanks for tuning in. It's your time to thrive.